I'm not trying to say the Jehovah Witness religion should be outlawed or they shouldn't be allowed to practice their faith. My issue here is that when you take a 14-year-old kid who was brought up in this religion, not necessarily allowed to associate with others outside of his religion, certainly not allowed to be exposed to other religious doctrine or thoughts or philosophy. Given all of that, I think the judge should have taken that into consideration when he determined that the 14-year-old was capable of making a decision that killed him. He's dead because he refused to take the blood transfusion.
Correct. But at the same time, obviously we weren't there in the courtroom, so we don't know all the nuances that went on.
I don't doubt
There's not a whole hell of a lot of nuance
I don't doubt
there.
for a moment
Thanks for the call.
that Dennis Lindberg, age 14, was probably smarter, more intelligent, more mature than the average 14-year-old, very thoughtful young man. But I also think it's 14. And, it's one thing to say when you're 14, I want to get a tattoo. Or I want to try, some extreme sports. Risking your life is one thing. Doing something dumb, that's called being a teenager.
I'll tell you,
but killing yourself.
I'm not trying to speak ill of the dead, John, but I would venture to say he wasn't a very thoughtful young man in respect to the world around him. He may have been thoughtful in the context of who he was as a Jehovah's Witness, but I don't think he was thoughtful in the sense that he was capable of making this kind of a decision. My question to people out there, I don't think a 14-year-old should be dead because if he chose to do something that the members of his family didn't agree with, they would have shunned him. So the question comes down to either you live or die, and if you live, none of your family members are going to speak to you. That's the choice he had. The question comes down to either you live or die, and if you live, none of your family members are going to speak to you. That's the choice he had. Susan, you're up next here on KVI.
Duval, you're on KVI. Hello.
Yes, you are absolutely right about him being shunned if he hadn't taken the blood transfusion. And my sister...
If he had taken the blood transfusion.
He had, excuse me. My sister's a Jehovah's Witness, so my mom and I have dealt with this with her 3 children, and we basically drew a line in the sand with her husband, who's not a Jehovah's Witness, and told her flat out, your kids need a blood transfusion, we'll go to court, we'll do what we need to do to get them one. But this child, having no parents of his own, living with an aunt who's a Jehovah's Witness, had he taken that blood transfusion, he risked losing every stable thing that he had in his life.
Yep.
Your previous caller said, oh, no, they really look down on it. No, it's not looking down on it. You will be disfellowshipped, shunned, thrown out, and the end result of that is basically being destroyed forever and ever in Armageddon. And that's what they believe.
I think you put your finger on it, Susan. I got to take a break.